This is going to be an incredible interview today, and we got some great content for you. This is not the type of stuff that you find anywhere. Actually, found my man Mike Goldberg next door. We were working out at like one of the most elite gyms in the world, and you never know who you're going to meet until you get in the right places. And within 2 seconds, you never know who you're going to hit it off with. And an announcer and in media for the sports world, especially NHL, which I absolutely love. UFC, Bellator, and what's really exciting about this is how much we have in common and being around this. So I'm super excited about this. We've got some great stuff to share with everybody. I always say all the time, you never know who you're going to meet. And I went next door for my evaluation over at Neuroforce, and I went over there and I said, "How am I doing?" And then you and I avoided my evaluation. We just hit it off in 3 seconds. It's that bond that hockey players have. So
I think they were a little annoyed with us.
Yes,
because all of a sudden we were in our own little world.
Yeah. It was like, bye. I love it. I love
nice
it.
To see you again.
You too, my man.
Pleasure.
I wanted to pick your brain. I know as typically as I'm listening to and I'm working with our clients and our students over the years, people always asking me, how do you go get what you want in this world? And I just got to ask a magic question, how do you, as a kid growing up, being around sports, you played sports the majority of your life?
Played hockey my whole life.
How'd you get into hockey?
It's funny, my dad was a traveling salesman for Revlon. My parents didn't know hockey.
You're a child of a salesperson? I couldn't believe it.
Child of a salesperson. Right. Amazing, right?
Yeah.
In fact, moving ahead a little bit, my dad was in between jobs and he had, at one point, what's called the pooper scooper.
Okay.
It was one of the items he was...
literally the pooper scooper.
I've
heard of the pooper scooper.
Yeah, he had it.
Okay.
So he had these little rubber poops, and he thought it'd be funny to throw it in elevators. And I used to take my teeth out back in the day, put it in people's drinks, but he'd throw it around and he'd scoop it up. Anyway, my mom and dad didn't know hockey. My dad, a huge Pete Rose fan, watched him at Crosley Field.
Pre-gambling Pete Rose.
Pre-gambling Pete Rose.
The baseball player.
Not
the one that the young kids think of as that guy gets thrown out of baseball.
The one, September 11th, 1985, on a 2-1 pitch from Eric Schaff.
100%.
That guy, 4192, which I got my dad to. May he rest in peace. But greatest moment that I shared with my dad. So I played hockey, but the way that I got into it is my dad worked with a guy from Cheeseboro Ponds who actually played hockey at that school up north. You can tell I'm from Ohio, and we just kicked their butt again. So the Buckeyes just rolled, so hardballs on thin ice. Anyway, he said, "Your kid should try hockey." I'm like, all right.
How old are you?
I was 5 years old, 6 years old.
That's lucky you didn't get that at 10 like I did.
Yeah, I did. I also remember the first time I tried it, how difficult it was to get figure skates over a pair of shin pads. Okay. That's how little we knew about it.
So you're telling me you started hockey with figure skates?
Just one day.
Yeah. Okay.
One day. Yeah. It didn't work. It was really bad.
Wow,
then the first pair of skates I had.
Teased?
A little bit. Yeah, I quickly changed to Derek Sanderson skates. Okay. They were Adidas, and there was no steel toe on them. But it was okay because nobody could lift the puck at 6 years old. My first time I played, my mom faked my birth certificate because you had to be 7 years old in Southfield, Michigan. And I started playing hockey, and I just was very passionate about it. My family became very passionate about it. And Mr. Erickson was my coach pretty much my entire life. He and a guy named Ian Cushnan, who was on the 1958 Montreal Canadiens Stanley Cup championship team.
So you've been around professional athletes the majority of your life?
My whole life. And Crash, Mr. Cushnan, Coach Cushnan, who at almost 80 years old, we're still very, very afraid of.
So let me ask you this. I got to ask you this question because sounds so normal for you, but the majority of people get like Joe the coach or Mr. Robinson who is helping out, and he's, not to knock him, he's not in shape. He's never played professional sports in your life. So your whole life, you literally were surrounded by professional athletes helping you as an athlete, but that was like normal for you.
It was normal. It was very normal.
Because that's not normal, right? I just want to help you really give you context here. Well, the majority of the people listening right now, they got kids that are 5 or 6 years old. They do not have that, and they themselves didn't have that. But you at 5 or 6 years old were surrounded by professional athletes.
But didn't know it then. And didn't realize the significance of it.
You might not even realize it until now.
And how I would be pushed to the point in which I was pushed, and how they always talk about how sports is really life, and how the dedication of sports, the way you work, the way you recover from losses, the way that you treat winning, being humble, the way that you advance and become champions It's the same thing you're trying to teach people all the time. The same thing I'm trying to do in life. That same competitive nature. I've always said hockey, Michael, is in my DNA, which is why we hit it off next door.
It's like that instant, exactly. It's that instant thing. And
because it's a special sport.
I talk about it in the intro chapter of my book. I talk about hockey, and people say, oh, people don't relate to that, but the people that do. The people that understand competitive athletics or hockey, there's an instant like brotherhood, sistership of hockey that really brings folks together. I had this Coach Herms, when I was a kid. I remember he slammed the locker room door and he put the thing on the wall. He said, winners never quit and quitters never win. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I remember him saying that, but that drilled into my brain at such a young age. What was it that at a young age for you that somebody said, because our parents are typically role models, but I know coaches, I tell people all the time, your kids are more with their teachers. They're you can love your kids all you want. You have them from 5 or 6 o'clock at night till they go to bed, whenever that is, older when they're a teenager, in a few hours in the morning if you're lucky. And then their friends in school and teachers and coaches have them all day. What did one of these coaches say to you way before you became who you are today that sticks in your brain, from this day forward, that winners never quit thing for me, or it takes 1 second to look up, and awareness? That was the one thing Coach taught me when I got leveled one time, and I realized I never get leveled again. But what was the one thing that a coach said to you that really still makes a big impact in your life?
When I stop yelling at you is when you should start to worry.
Interesting. What did that mean to you?
That meant that he cared about me. He believed in me. He saw me as a leader on the team. He saw me as a guy who could lead the city of Cleveland and the state of Ohio in goal scoring. And that's why he was so hard on me each and every day. This was Ian Cushnan. Crash, as we called him. Who would come out with a straight stick, garden gloves, and occasionally yell at us so much, Michael, that his teeth would go flying. His teeth would go flying, and he wouldn't stop yelling at us. He'd lean down, pick up his teeth, put them back in. Thank God we had, the cage back then, because we're laughing. But you could never laugh in front of Coach Cushnan. But that's the way it is in life, and that's the way I'm sure you are when you engage with your clients.
Yes.
That's the way I am when I engage with young people. It's like, hey, if you want to be good at this, I am happy to help, because you pass it on. I had people who believed in me, but if you're not going to take it seriously, then I'm going to move on to the guy or the girl who really wants it. And that's what Coach Cushnan meant. So when I stop paying attention to you, when I stop being hard on you, when I stop trying to get everything I can get out of you, that's when you should get worried, because that means I don't believe in you anymore.
So it's so interesting you said this, because I immediately go to ourselves. I immediately think somebody said that to you and you took it on. He was talking to you.
Absolutely.
But then that eventually became your internal voice, didn't it?
There's no question about it.
Because you're yelling at yourself inside. You could do better. You could skate harder. You could push more. So his voice that you were around became your voice.
Yes.
And to this day in your head, that's why when you were talking earlier when we first got started about your little time off that you had, the 5 months, you wanted to go, you wanted to push. You had his voice, your voice, inside of your head. This is why we have to be really careful who we surround ourselves. Why it's become parents. It's I understand now why my parents were like, don't hang out with that kid.
Right.
Don't hang out with that kid. You don't want to be with that kid. You definitely want to be with that kid. And they always wanted me to be with the one kid that I didn't want to be with. My parents always trying to push me to that one kid. But so that was a big impact for you, that voice inside of your head. Now, how did the transition happen? Because I find it fascinating. You have been at the levels, whether you're giving yourself credit to or not, being on national TV, being in the sports world, being on SportsCenter, being in the NHL for how many years? 9 years, you said?
Yeah, about 900 games.
About 900 games. Most people are happy. I get thrilled when I get tickets behind the bench, right? And we'd knock on, and Shane Doan would talk to Maya, my daughter.
One of the nicest guys in the world.
I see him all the time at the rink. And Tyson, I know you know Tyson
Absolutely.
well. Tyson would wave to us and stop us in the lounge, and that was big. We were on TV watching the game. You're on TV in people's houses in one of the biggest hockey markets in the world. How does that transition happen? How does somebody, because they could pick, how many people, how does somebody become in the sports arena? I know that's one of these little paying jobs that if you want to even work for an NHL team, here's $9. You can work your ass off forever. How does somebody go and get a profession like that? Did you have the voice in your head? How does that work?
8th grade, I was also a singer and a performer. We go to Channel 8 in Cleveland, Ohio. You remember the old Jerry Lewis telethons?
Yep.
They would have the local acts. I went into Channel 8 and I got to sing with the group. It was quick, but then I got to watch them do the news. And I watched this sportscaster. And I saw the teleprompter and I saw the camera and I said, that's what I'm going to do in life. And
I literally said that?
No, I literally said
it. Did you have any idea that you were going to do it?
I knew I loved sports.
No, but
I
did you
had
know
no
how the
idea
hell you were going to do it?
No. Because I said, that's what I'm going to do. And I was very blessed that I knew at a very young age that this is what I wanted to do. And I only knew through hockey that I wanted to be the best. I didn't want to be an all-star. I didn't want to be I wanted to be an Olympian. And, you know, if you set the level here and it comes anywhere here, you're still above most of the world. And I've been very blessed to be able to stay amongst the clouds, if you will, for a long time. But it's been my self-motivation. Some people over the years that have taught me how to prep, have taught me how to be a network guy, have taught me how to take it to a level that few cannot take it to. And I mean that very humbly, but that's
some
because
inside
I've been taught
secrets, because that's
Yes.
the type of stuff I want to figure out.
Yes.
So you get sat down. I remember even I talked to Tyson about this back
Yeah.
when he first started, and he's like, hey, you want to take some communication classes, learn some stuff. We were just chatting about a few different things because he was new to it. He came from a hockey player,
Absolutely.
professional athlete, played for the Canucks, then played for, he played for the
remember,
Coyotes and
yeah, the
everything.
Blues, yeah.
Blues, and what was interesting about it was, he said that to me, what did they say to you? So if you were to give advice to somebody, because I don't think it's only about, advice can be used in every facet. Everything you learned in hockey can be used in every major facet of life. What did the network guys teach you that really helped you open up your game and took you to that level? Because it's easy to burn out in 1 year.
First and foremost, it was about preparation. One of my heroes, Bill Clement.
Okay.
First of all, played
Sure.
for the Flyers. I was born in 1964, 74-75 Broad Street Bullies.
Yeah.
I was number 16. I was the captain. Got my teeth knocked out. I was Bobby Clark. I literally, when I was younger than that, I went running into my mom's room one day. I was probably about 11 years old. I didn't know any better. I said, Mom, how do I get diabetes? She's like, what? I go, Mom, how do I get diabetes?
That's modeling.
If people know, Bobby Clark
Yes.
is a diabetic.
Yes.
You know, Bobby Clark. Flin Flon, Manitoba. My first report was on.
So you wanted diabetes because you wanted to be
like
him.
my hero. I didn't know anything about it.
It's like, how do I
get it?
How do I cut off one of my arms so I can be a good pitcher? Yeah.
Seriously, I'm going to be this guy. So I was Bobby Clark. I was number 16. So when I had the opportunity to work with Bill Clement at ESPN, first of all, I had made it to the network level. Secondly, I'd made it in the sport that I love. And then Billy took me under his wing, if you will, and he taught me a couple of things. First and foremost was preparation. He always said, when you think you're prepared, take another half hour. Read some more articles, look at some more game notes, study some more, and then put it aside. Because after that extra 30 minutes, you're just going to confuse yourself. And then you're going to try to jam stuff into the broadcast, and you're not going to let it breathe. Secondly, he said, be yourself. Don't be Pat Foley. Don't be Mike Emmerich. Don't try to be Gary Thorne, who was my favorite, because Thorne and Clement were my favorite of all time.
Sam Rosen.
Sam. Well, of course, you're a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Marty Brenneman, Cincinnati kid. You know, I grew up listening to Marty Brenneman.
Yeah.
And this one belongs to the Reds.
Yep.
So, you know, that was my dad sitting there back with great memories. But I always remember him saying, develop your own style. Yes, look at people you admire and take a little bit of this and mix in a little bit of that. Watch some greats that maybe they do things that don't work for you and avoid those. But first of all, be prepared as well as you can be. It's much like any athlete, much like anybody, any executive who's going to give a big presentation. It's not the presentation that is the work. It's working up to the presentation that is the preparation that makes the presentation successful, that makes it meaningful, that makes it move people and move the gauge and makes it great communication. As you know, and those are the two things to this day. Hey, there you go. There you go. I'm in. See, I'm going to have initials and stuff.
Yeah. Get it.
I'm going to have a cool
next
logo
time you're
next
come
time,
back.
right?
You'll have the MG on the screen.
Wait, that's
we'll
kind
get
of cool.
We'll get you an MG made next
I like
time.
it. I like it.
Make it work.
Absolutely. So that's what it was from Bill.
Preparation.
Absolutely.
And then to be your best, there was a third thing you said. There was a third, if you can remember.
Preparation, be yourself.
Be yourself. Was there a third one? If not,
I've always been self-motivated to be the best I could.
Okay.
To try to be the best in the world.
So you're on.
And now I'm in a platform in which I can display my motivation and my drive to do so.
Absolutely.
Because I've worked many, many years and done a lot of high school swimming and diving and track and field and minor league baseball and always treated it the same way as I would treat a Game 7. Because, Michael, you're going to watch that tape in 9th grade when you won the state championship in hockey every Christmas with your parents.
Yep.
So I need to get it right. Even though you're a 9th grader, I need to still get that event right because that's going to last in your mind and your parents and your grandparents forever and ever and ever. So I studied for those events the same way I study for events today.
So be your best.
It was all about being your best.
What the environment is, no matter what, because it impacts other people.
That's it. Control what you can control.
So day one, you get called up. You did the Sports Center.
Yep.
You're doing media coverage. You're doing a bunch of different things. You're more behind the scenes. Then you get put up announcing. Tell me what first game is like, what you feels like. 'Cause I know you're a confident guy, but I just, and I want the truth. I mean, if you're like, it was no big deal, I've been prepped for it, I've been doing it my whole life, because I want to backtrack real quick. A lot of times kids, this day and age, I always said if I could do high school over again, I would have done debate. I would have done debate, and I would have done the speaking, and I would have taken the public speaking class. Because later in life, debating, negotiation, public speaking, huge skills. But as kids, that was what the athletes didn't do that stuff.
Right.
Now I wish I would have done that. It'll help with YouTube and everything else. So any kids watching, debate, stuff like that. It's years after you've done singing, you've done your dancing, you're singing, all this stuff. You dancing, or did I make that up?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, kind of dancing. Okay.
Kind of,
and you're
parachute
in
pants,
parachute.
you know.
Did you have those too?
Absolutely.
Cavaricis?
For sure.
You Cavaricis?
Yeah. Can't touch it.
Can't. Oh, that's great. So your first game, first big game, big national network. What'd that feel like? What was the feeling pre-game, your prep work? Any scarier, any harder? And it didn't have to be.
No, achievement, excitement.
What does that feel like achievement to you?
Then it was all worth it. That my belief in myself, starting in 8th grade, that every
I'll do
goal that I
that.
set for myself, I'm going to do that. And people who believed in me over the years. I remember I used to do the weather, WMUB, Miami University, the weather in the WMUB listening area. Yeah, Oxford, Ohio. And I was on for 30 seconds. And everybody in the dorm would turn on their little transistor radio to 88.5. For my 30 seconds.
It's a snow day today.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly out today. Well, of course it is. I live in Ohio. You know, chance of snow and
That's
rain.
my wife's from Ohio, Youngstown.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so you understand. OH. We already got into that though. Although I may talk about beating that team up north a couple more times.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's not even a rivalry anymore. But you know, that's for another time.
Totally get it. So you're saying
Woody is smiling right now. So it was
a rival.
It was everything.
It was a rival.
It was way back until we started beating them all the time.
Got
rivalry is a team that beats you once in a while.
Yeah.
I don't want to jinx, the Buckeyes for the next couple of years.
I get it.
When you're putting up 50 on them in back-to-back years.
So you're passionate about all sports.
I am. But I'm most passionate about hockey. I mean, there's these sports, and then there's hockey. But back in the day, pre-ESPN, my biggest job, my biggest opportunity was being the sideline reporter for the Chicago Bulls.
How long did you do that for?
I did it from 88. So I watched the bad boys better themselves, get past the Celtics.
This is like Nike getting big back then.
Absolutely.
This is Jordan.
This is Mike putting Nike on the map.
Wow. And you were there for that.
I was there.
So again, you're surrounded by the greatest.
I am.
You got the greatest coach.
Mike overcome
Yep.
some of the greatest, who just overcame some of the greatest in those Pistons teams that overcame Larry Bird and those great Celtics teams, who thus then in the Eastern Conference, the Bulls were finally able to beat. And then Michael got his first 3, went to play baseball, came back and got 3 more.
Did you see the natural progression? And the reason I'm saying that, you're 8th grade.
Yep.
Were you able to, through, my parents taught me hard work. My parents taught me, dedication, stick it out. Did you see, hey, I'm going to go do that, and then now you're doing sideline reporting, which is nobody sees you. Does that make sense? You kind of get a couple of VIP passes, and you're excited about a few things going on. Did you see the natural progression all the way through to one day I'm going to be, one of the most famous announcers in the world when it comes to UFC and everything? Did you see that, or how did that work?
I never thought of it as fame or celebrity or notoriety. I felt it as achievement. It was always achievement. I've always been self-driven.
Difference? What does achievement look like to you? Feel like, sound like? The reason is everyone's got their own desire for that. What does that mean to you?
To be amongst the best in the world. To truly be amongst the best in the world. And to push myself to that point. To prepare myself to that point. Now, I'm in a business, you're in a business, but especially I am in front of the camera where it's 100% subjective. Some people like ketchup, some people like mustard.
Which one are you?
I don't know. Depends on who's watching.
Got it.
Right? Depends on who's watching. Bob Costas is one of the greatest of all time. There's as many people who hated Bob Costas as liked him. Joe Buck gets as much hate mail as he gets love mail. And to me, he's the greatest.
How do you deal with that?
I didn't deal with it well at first.
Okay, let's talk about that for a minute, because I have people
especially when social media.
That's what I was about to ask you. So if we go back to the old days, it would take fan mail.
Yeah.
So it's almost like Mill Avenue back in the day. Went to ASU, Arizona State.
Yeah.
And they used to have a law on Mill Avenue that you couldn't park on Mill Avenue on the weekends, and I couldn't figure out why. Well, the reason is this is a state where guns are allowed, so you'd have to go walk to your car about a mile, get drunk, get pissed, walk about a mile, go get your gun, come back. By the time you came back, you're
in Canada, drunk and pissed are the same thing.
You're cool. Does that make sense? Yeah,
absolutely.
You're cool. So the reason I bring that up is back in the old days, someone would have to go find the number for the network, write a letter. It was weeks after you did something silly online, said something you shouldn't have. It was a different thing. Now it's instant. So how do you deal with that? Because you're strong, you're confident, you know what's going on. This is something big for people, because I have clients that avoid making videos. I have clients that avoid making their books, avoid putting stuff online. How did you deal with that to start with when you started putting a post? Let's go there.
Not very well.
Okay.
What does that mean, not very well? Because, well, first off, let's go back to, like you said, it takes a long time to sit down and write a letter.
Yep.
Not many people do. They'll do it more if they're mad than if they're in a good mood.
Yep.
But there are very few people in this world who have the guts, who have the balls to come up to your face and say, you know what, dude, I think you suck. Yep. I think you're the worst announcer in the history of life. You
ever had that
should have
happen?
never. No.
Okay.
I really haven't. I've had people say,
I can organize that. I can hire somebody.
Well, you did. You did. But honestly, I've never had somebody do that, nor have I done that to somebody.
Yep.
You know, that's not my business. I can walk up and be constructive to someone who's asked me to critique their work. And I've always said, Michael, if I'm not honest with them, then I'm wasting their time and I'm sending them down a path where they won't have success.
Yep.
Because if I tell you, oh, you're great, you're doing everything perfect, when I know deep in my heart that you're not, what good am I doing to you? I'm lying to you. And if you keep doing it that way, doesn't mean you won't have success. But I know in my heart that I haven't sent you the right way. Well, now Twitter comes out. At first, Twitter was awesome.
That wasn't out when you were doing hockey, was it?
No. Well, no.
Okay,
no,
so
no.
now
it was out more with
UFC,
the MMA world.
MMA
UFC,
world,
yeah.
Bellator. So
and the UFC was, I believe, the first major sports entity to really utilize social media in a positive way to get their message to the world.
Yep.
And it was an inexpensive way to get your message to the world. So they caught on the wave of social media and used it to the fullest. At first, I would literally take an hour a night and answer every tweet. And you know what everybody would say? Oh my God, Mike Goldberg just answered my tweet. Like, Mike Goldberg talked to me. You know, when you're on TV, you're in somebody's living room. Yeah. I used to always joke, I'm in more women's bedrooms every night at 11 o'clock than anybody else in the world. Might have been little Sarasota, but in the network, I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. I don't know if the husband's like, but this is, you know, we used to joke about that. But when you enter somebody's house, you don't realize the effect of that when you're back on the camera doing what you love, but you are coming into somebody's home when you're on television. It might be bars and that too.
I think it's the
but
same,
you
with,
really
the same with the internet, with YouTube these days.
There's no question.
Literally, you could be in someone's house.
Even more so because that person has truly chosen to go to YouTube and find you and watch you. So it's a little bit more of an effort. Then social media got toxic and I got defensive. I remember one night, I was going off on Twitter. I'd had a couple cocktails after what I thought was a great UFC. My daughter was about 14 years old, and she calls me. It's like 2 in the morning in Vegas, so I don't know if she was here in Phoenix, maybe it was 3. Anyway, it was late. She goes, Dad, why are you being such an asshole? I go, what are you talking? She's 14. Keep this in mind. She goes, is your password still the same on Twitter? I go, yeah. She goes, okay, love unite. And she literally, Michael, went into my Twitter account, started deleting things. She's like, Dad, you got to stop engaging with these idiots. Why are you doing this? You're fueling their fire. You're motivating them to come at you more. Not just that person, but everybody else. They just want to get a reaction. Because now all of a sudden they're a star. Mike Goldberg just told me to F off. Mike Goldberg answered my tweet. Positive or negative.
Them be a hero.
Absolutely. I've given them a platform because they've jumped on me and my followers and I've reacted.
But what happens with that is you wind up just instigating them. You give them what they wanted. They want to feel famous. They want to feel important. All those people want to do is be loved.
That's it.
So they'll take it any way they can.
Put on a headset, send your tape in.
You brought up an interesting point, and this is fascinating. So we want to, the way the world is today, it's a totally different place. And I believe that most people are not willing to understand what it takes to be great at what they do. They're not willing to go through what you went through. They do not want to be criticized. They do not want Coach, whoever you had back in the day, to tell you, Coach, no doubt. If they got yelled at once, it would be too much. Like I have to prep people to actually have a real conversation with them. And the fascinating thing about what you're saying is that most people think they can be great at things. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges. I do believe they can be great, but they're not deciding to be great. They could be great in their delusion. And I think this is one of the biggest problems out there. It's like they shy away from things, so it's easier to pretend in your head that you could be good at something. So here's Joey Rockstar, 19, from Sarasota, sending you a message saying I could be better than you. And it's better for his delusion that he could be better than you, to him actually pay the dues, do the work, and go back in time and go do dancing, singing, and wearing parachute pants to MC Hammer. Okay, whatever it takes to do. So how do you get this out there? Because what you do and how you live, it's a dying breed. We are not coaching our kids the same way that you and I were coached.
No question.
I mean, I got to ask you. I mean, did you coach? You said your son plays hockey. Did you coach him the same way?
The whole time. I didn't even coach him.
Okay, but did you?
Wouldn't listen to me.
You wouldn't listen. Okay, so your coach, you listened.
I was an assistant.
What's that?
I was the assistant. I ran the forwards, but he was the one forward I didn't really talk too much. He was our captain, but he was accountable to the head coach.
Got it.
He would have been a lot smarter to deal with me on a daily basis.
So we deal with, and you mentioned the word voice earlier, it's one thing we talked about originally when we came in, is we as human beings use our voice and things we're comfortable with. Like Joe is just genius. Do you know what I'm saying? He knows, he will beat you in a conversation every which way, and it doesn't matter. That's like I always tell everybody, you don't want to argue with me. It's just, you're not going to win. Do you know what I'm saying? At least maybe a physical altercation would be a different story, but when it comes to an argument, you don't want to get into it. So he knows how to use that. When you're phenomenal at things, voicing how you are with them is very, very easy to do. It's the challenging thing, like raising children and speaking up with them. It's a challenging thing like dealing with Twitter. It's the challenging thing like getting this next level that you're after in your life and what it is that you want to achieve for yourself that we're less comfortable with, where our voice goes from big and bold and strong to less comfortable. So have you ever seen that correlation? Like, you're a guy, I saw you, I'm like, dude, you're the voice. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You are speaking outwardly what you're feeling inwardly. And the second that lowers and you feel like your voice is not on, I don't think this is just you, it's me, it's you, it's all human beings. And it goes down a bit, our voice cracks a little bit, we're in things we're less comfortable with, and we want to go back to where our voice is stronger and more powerful. And it could be in bad shit. It could be in stuff that we're really great at just getting wasted all the time. We're really great at being a loser. We're really great at playing line two at things instead of actually going for what we want.
Right.
So this dies with you unless we find a way to revitalize something. Like we were talking about earlier, like the Jimmy Hoffa movie with the Teamsters, how the world used to be, how tough people used to be and how strong. Where do you see the world right now if people don't start speaking up and this starts shifting? I mean, do you think this whole idea, I mean, it's a changing conversation right now, but this way that you grew up with built you. I could lay the whole timeline down. 5 years old, hockey, you got that coach. You're surrounded by yourself by great people all the time. It was normal for you. You're around great things. You're Ohio, right? You got Don King, Ohio. Does that make sense? Like him, hate him, Ohio. Does that make sense? You got Pete Rose. You got all these people. Boom, 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 boom. Everything. Then you're around Jordan. You're around Pippen. Then you're around Iserman. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All the way up. And then you're around who are the greatest UFC fighters in the world. You're around them.
Anderson, BJ,
all of them.
Jones. And,
all of them.
GSP,
the original
everybody.
guys. Do you know what I'm saying?
The true pioneers.
Pioneers
and
of the
true
sport.
First grades who will always be amongst the greatest.
How do people that can't get around that create that for themselves? And how do we, as parents, as adults, recognize that we got a chance to be those indicators for people? Because not everybody gets to be around greatness all the time.
I was blessed to be able to take the right thing.
You got double blessed, man.
Yeah. I have. And keep in mind, I'm not sitting here pounding my chest saying that I'm great. I'm saying this was my goal.
Proximity.
Correct.
Yes.
This was my goal, to be amongst the best, to be amongst the elite. That doesn't mean that everybody needs to think I'm great, because according to social media and a lot of people, I'm
going to look up those posts. Get your daughter on the phone. We'll figure out how many times she closed your account down.
Absolutely. And she's an actress, aspiring actress, who's as driven as I am.
Did you teach her the same thing?
No.
Did you?
That's the beautiful thing.
No, but she saw you.
Yes, I did.
She was around as a young kid. Like, you're at holiday parties with Tiger Woods. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're running into these people.
Haven't had that one yet, but I
What's that? Well, I'm just putting it out there to the world. That would be not a bad thing, right?
No, not at all.
Help your golf game.
No, for sure.
You had to have the Gilmore swing?
I've tried it.
Yeah.
I've tried it.
I get it.
So, it was such a great movie at first, but the more you watch it, the dumber it is.
It was great back in the day. I'm going to make me not watch it again.
Yeah. And he had a Bruins jersey on. But that's okay, because I had the Derek Sanderson skates.
But the Bruins, that's another whole,
it is.
It's another dynasty back in the day. So what do we do with, how did you as a parent use those same skills? Even though you didn't really voice it out loud, how did you wind up with a child that your son played hockey at a high level?
Absolutely.
Okay, and your daughter's on her way to be an actress?
Yep.
How'd you do that?
By example.
Okay, what is example?
Well, 100% example. They would see me in my office, which if I could circle back, Michael, much like you said, I would have come out of my office a lot more, and I would have read that book. Not that I wasn't with my kids, because I was constantly, and that is the most important job that God has ever given me, and that's the most important job that I will take with me until the day I die. And that is being a parent. That is Kiara and Cole, my daughter and my son. Bar none. Forget it.
How old are they now?
Forget it. 22 and 19.
That's awesome.
Everything else, forget it. Cole's a sophomore at ASU in sports business. So going along the same genre, doesn't really want to be on the air, which is fine, but wants to be very great at what he's doing. Already working for the Coyotes, working with their
fantastic.
Little Hollers program, already passing it on. And Kiara, she was 8 or 9 years old, Michael, and she walked into the room. She just played t-ball, and she was a pretty good little athlete. She walked into my room in front of Kim, my ex, and I, and she goes, here's the deal. Mom, Dad, I don't play sports. I sing, I act, and I dance. And she turned around and she wiggled her little butt and she walked away. And Kim and I looked at each other and we're like, okay. That's what she's done since that
was her voice.
That was it. Awatuki Children's Theater. Focused, knew what she wanted. Basically was leaving the house in 10th grade, homeschooling to go to LA 1 week each month to work on her craft. She was me without me doing anything, but she saw how I did things. So going back to, I would have left my office more often if I had to do it over again, but I always sat in my office preparing, in the back of my mind saying, I am doing this for them.
So being your best, this goes back to your 3 rules about be your best, be yourself. Does that make sense? So basically these rules have followed you your entire life.
No question. And be prepared.
Be prepared.
Yeah. And that's what I was doing. I was preparing so that I could feel comfortable being my best and obviously be prepared and be comfortable and entertained.
So if you would have left your office and been there more for your kids, you wouldn't have been being you.
No, I'm too OCD.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be you. They would have
I would have gone back.
But you would have been you being what you think you're supposed to be doing versus what you really needed to do, and it worked out.
How many times have people asked you before a big presentation, do you get nervous?
All the time.
All the time. Do you?
I get ready. Correct. I wouldn't call it nervous. I have my process. And I do my thing. Do you remember? I do my thing, get pissed off, get excited, whatever I need to do, move 15 different things, get everything set up the way I need it to do. But I get a process for it.
Well, why aren't you nervous?
Because it's who I am.
But why aren't you nervous?
Because I'm prepared and I'm ready.
Bingo.
And my preparation isn't always the same at other people's. Like I don't sit there going over notes.
Right.
My preparation is a radically different thing. Like I don't think I've ever covered this publicly, but my preparation is. I even have a hockey preparation the night before a game. I mean, I have hockey preparation laying out my equipment, setting my bag the night before. Like I know if I don't set my bag, it doesn't work right.
Yeah.
I know as a kid, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd flatten out my hair because I didn't want it all with the crap in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If an early game me out the night before. But my preparation for being on stage it's interesting you bring this up, is very simple. Like I literally have to work myself up to get like almost like just fucking crazy, anxious, and happy to calm myself down, to go where I need to do what I need to do. And I love interaction. And that's the one thing, is like I look at things, and I'm gonna ask you some questions about video in a minute, but my preparation is very, very specific, and it's the same every single time. It's literally getting myself in the state that I need to be in to be my best. And if somebody else did my version of preparation, it wouldn't work. Because that's my preparation that I do, and everyone needs to figure out what theirs is.
So you just answered the question that you had earlier asked me perfectly. You just said more eloquently what I would tell you when people come up to me and ask me, do I get nervous? No, I get excited. I know I'm not tricking anybody, Michael. I'm not trying to fool anybody. I've put in the work. People said I ask dumb questions to show. No. I'm the quarterback. I'm happy being Jake Delhomme and having my Super Bowl ring, and I'm happy with Joe being T.O. or Randy Moss. He can be that renegade guy. I understand that Joe's the star. And so there were times where you produce, you write in reverse, you prepare in reverse, and I throw stuff out to Joe, or Big John McCarthy as it is now at Bellator, that I know I can answer myself, but nobody wants to hear it from Jim Nantz. They want to hear it from Paul Azinger. Nobody wants to hear it from Pat Summerall. They want to hear it from John Madden. Nobody wants to hear it from Joe Buck. They want to hear it from Troy Aikman. Or they want to hear it from Tony Romo. Because those guys lived it. So when I threw out some of those questions, and people were like, he's been doing this for how many years and he doesn't know that? Of course I knew it, but I'm not the star. Joe's the star.
You're letting them be the star.
Absolutely. I'm not letting him. That's my assignment.
Yep.
I'm putting him on the platform to be Joe. And one of the greatest compliments Joe ever gave me, I had
was Joe Rogan?
Yeah. I had a wild game I was working with the Wild, the Minnesota Wild, and the UFC, and we were in the playoffs in 2003.
You were double dipping that year.
I did a lot of double dipping for a long time, and there was a playoff game that I could not miss. I knew that I had to stay with the team because it was the playoffs and not have that night be a UFC night. And Joe actually did play-by-play in Miami. And Phil Baroni, the New York Badass, was his color commentator. And Joe came to me the next show and he goes, don't ever do that to me again. Ever. Because all of a sudden now he's got 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, we're coming back with item 143. He's got the plays on his arm. He doesn't want the plays on his arm. Who does want the plays on their arm? Who wants to be responsible? I'm cool with it. I'm motivated by it. Joe just wants to get open. And that's great too, because when I get him the ball, he does spectacular things via Randy Moss T.O. And I use those guys because Joe's always had that renegade personality. But he's also a superstar at a different level than most in the world. And I was smart enough to recognize that. So again, I'm happy being Jake Delhomme. I'm happy handing the ball off to him. So that's how I looked at it, is I had to keep my ego in check, get it to the right person, but it didn't mean that I wasn't ready, I wasn't educated, or I didn't know the sport. I knew it enough to broadcast in reverse, if you will, to set my partner up to be the star. And before that, it might have been Greg Kelser on Big Ten basketball, for Raycom.
So you're the real captain then. And that's what most people
That's
look
exactly
at that Mark
right.
Messier up there, and
One of
that's
the greatest leaders
one of
ever.
the greatest. The biggest thing they said about him is he was more excited when Gretzky or Curry when they got an actual award, when they hit their markers, than he actually ever was. When he succeeded at something. So it's like great people. Like I said to me the other day, Scott Patrick Tempo, give a shout out to my man. He is like the godfather of the chiropractic industry, and he said, great people don't do great things. Great people surround themselves by people that are already doing great things. I know he said, I'm giving him credit for telling me, I know it was quoted by somebody else, but he's the one that told me we were at dinner the other night. And I thought about that. It's like, how many people want to do it all themselves? Real greatness comes from letting people do their things. You let Jordan do his thing out there. You let Madonna do his thing out there. You let all Iserman do his thing out there. You let these UFC fighters do their things out there, and you do your thing. And that's what I think a lot of times people have to recognize, that like every job is available in this world, whether you're going to be the garbage man, the doctor, the lawyer, the man holding a spear in the corner, guy mopping the ring, Mickey, whatever it is from Rocky, everything's available. The question is, which job do you want? You just picked the one you were looking for.
That's exactly right.
So you actually work on making people better.
I do.
You're the voice behind what people hear. Like there's moments that you share that live in people's lives forever.
We were the deliverers of this sport that nobody knew about around the world, this renegade sport that became mainstream.
When did you start with UFC?
1997.
Okay.
December 21st, 1997.
When did the brothers and everybody start putting that together? When did
They came in 2001, so I was with the old company for about 4 years.
Wow, so you were
when Senator McCain was basically shutting it down.
They were saying,
and when he said it was human cockfighting, Senator McCain was 100% right.
It was wrong back then.
It wasn't wrong. It wasn't wrong. It was different. It was brutal. It was what it was. It wasn't wrong. It just wasn't something that was going to be accepted as mainstream.
Yes.
Seeing somebody get kicked in the face and bleed all over a cage was not something that people would be comfortable with.
Well, nowadays they watch it all over YouTube. The world's changed.
Correct.
That's not 1997.
Correct.
So let's visit.
Hockey's not even the same.
Let's visit this for a minute. This is big. So you got something that you're in charge of promoting, basically, that the world doesn't want but does want. This is like every business owner's dilemma. Have you looked at it this way?
Absolutely.
Like literally, okay, go sell shit people want but don't realize they want, that they need, that the world doesn't let us have, that we don't know we're allowed to sell. How did you wake up in the morning and promote that? Even though it was exciting, like that's odd. I mean, that's not like you leave a nationally televised NHL, correct, to do this.
Correct.
How do you, it's like starting over.
Right.
It's like I was looking at hockey. I'm like, how did somebody come up with that crazy idea of playing hockey skates? Like, how did you convince yourself every day to promote something that 99% of the people will tell you is not correct? That's why I used the word wrong, and you had to defend yourself.
Right.
But how did you get yourself to actually get out there and promote this thing that the world did not understand, because boxing's hot and sexy, and all the great looking people show up, and dangerous. Yeah, totally. And Mike Tyson is just, biting people's ears and doing all that crazy stuff out there, and Don King's making $10 billion on this, and then you got this little teeny sport with a cage and a school bus dropping people off and fighters in there that have no rules.
Right.
Talked about that.
First of all, there were always rules.
I get it, but the world didn't know the rules.
Correct. Here's
It's like craps table. Everybody avoids it because they don't know the rules.
Absolutely. You know, I just know something about 7. I'm not sure what it means. I don't know if it's good or bad. That's why I don't play craps. Everybody said, you gamble a lot. I go, every time I go to Vegas, I make money because I'm doing a UFC. Why do I want to give it back? There's a reason these buildings are beautiful. The reason that I was able to accept it was actually, I find most mixed martial artists to have a very similar, unselfish DNA to a hockey player. The big difference is they are doing it on their own. At the end of the day, he's here, there's a referee, and a cage door shuts. Well, what I saw immediately, Michael, was the integrity of the athlete, the wrestler, who most times, if they got into college and won a national championship or they were an All-American, that was it. They weren't going on to a multi-million-dollar contract like a great baseball player, a football player, basketball player.
They were so hard.
They were done.
They sweat themselves.
They ran around in garbage bags back in our day.
I remember garbage bag with a bike in a sauna. Yeah. Just to make cut. And not eat for a week.
No question about it.
Chip was a wrestler.
Yeah, there you go. And wrestled probably at about 86 pounds.
84.
But that's my point. Who gave notoriety to that?
That was good announcement.
Nobody. Who gave notoriety to that?
Nobody.
What do they teach you in martial arts? Yes, sir, no, sir.
Yes, sir, yep.
Yes, respect for your opponent.
Yes.
Yes, we battle, but we're battling in a competition.
Yes.
We're not
Respect
looking to
each
really
other afterwards.
Absolutely. There's a huge respect. So now you have the martial arts angle of it, and you have the wrestling angle of it, and you start to pull that together. Jiu-jitsu is a martial art. So I saw the beauty of the respect that these athletes had. I didn't look at it as a street fight, even though Tank Abbott came in and said, on his bio, I'm 245-5 in street fights. And we had those personalities. You don't see any street fighters in there anymore. You see guys who'd kick your ass on the street, but like Rich Franklin said years ago, doctors don't do surgery in the middle of the street. Why would I fight in a bar?
Yep.
Why? And everybody wants to fight Ultimate Fighter, which really isn't what they are. They're a mixed martial artist. But everybody wants to take on that guy. How many people wanted to, Shane Doan, sure, a lot of people would want to take him on, but who doesn't want to fight a guy like, no, I wouldn't either. Brad Norton. Who wouldn't want to fight a guy like George LaRock back in the day? Oh, I can take him. I can take on Gino Ojic. Like, that would be a really dumb decision. Yeah. But a couple beers make us all very confident, if you will. It makes us tougher than we really are. And most times makes us make a lot of stupid decisions. So that's what I saw right away.
You respected what they were doing.
Absolutely,
and you
100%.
saw a winner?
For sure. And my partner was Olympic gold medalist Jeff Blatnick. Cancer survivor.
Again,
who
you're
went
around
to
the
1988.
winner. So you got a partner.
With the ultimate winner. Who survived and overcame cancer and won the gold medal in 1988.
So you're around it one more time.
Absolutely.
So the biggest thing in life as like a human being I'm getting from all of this is get around great quality people. Like I have masterminds around the right kind of people. I'm over there at a gym, which is not a cheap date. Does that make sense? Great people, one of the best gyms in the world.
Blows my mind.
Amazing what they do, Neuroforce One. And what's fascinating is you get around the right environment, you get around the right kind of people. So you're with a winner again. It's easier to look at this project is what you had. And you got up every single day and you wanted to be the best, and you helped elevate a sport.
For sure.
For that was nothing.
And there was only one way, going back to what we talked about earlier, high school swimming and diving, 8th grade. There's only one way I knew how to do it, and that was to the best of my ability. Energy and enthusiasm. Sell the product, believe in the product, tell the stories, give the background, and share the competition, and educate the audience around the world on what this really was. This was about a true athlete who now was becoming multidisciplined in his fighting and combative abilities. It used to be the wrestler who learned a little bit of boxing, but he utilized his wrestling. That was what the UFC was back in the day. It was jiu-jitsu against judo. It was boxing against... It wasn't Michael against Michael.
You got the Krav Maga guy with the jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely.
That did judo, that did karate, that knows how to do kempo.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And
by the way, the
yoga.
Gracies were part owners way back when. Yeah, there's a lot of Gracie academies
Interesting,
around the
isn't
world
it?
now.
So they saw the big picture, didn't they?
There's no question about it.
And every one of them was a champion.
No question. And they still are. I mean, to see the lineage of these Gracies.
All those guys.
I mean, what Hoist was doing to guys 40, 50 pounds bigger than them was crazy. Ken Shamrock's beating the shit out of him. I was like, nobody knew.
That's demonstration.
Nobody knew.
That's demonstration.
Nobody
so they
knew.
basically demonstrated to the world.
Elio Gracie was 90 pounds old, his father, who brought Japanese jiu-jitsu to the country of Brazil.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And they call it Brazilian, but it's really Japanese-Brazilian.
It is. It is truly Japanese jiu-jitsu. Every martial art.
We're not going to tell anybody.
At one point or another, every martial art is, Japanese or, Asian, of course.
So the real winning for you is get around the right kind of people and just really just go and decide that you're going to be the best at what you do.
Correct.
And if that were you to bottle down a formula, you would say that is literally the secret to everything, and then learn how to voice what it is that you want in a way that works for you.
Correct.
And share it with other people. I got a couple camera questions for you that I think would be really, really big, because I got the context with what you've done with mixed martial arts. How does somebody, because we have a lot of people that shoot videos and they shoot stuff at home, and people ask you video questions a lot?
Of course.
What is, and this is not about state, like, what are 2 or 3 things that you'd recommend to somebody to really, you're in someone's house, you're in someone's living room, they spent the time to look it up, respecting their time. How do you connect with that person? Like, you're speaking to one person. Like, what do you do to really make certain that you enter their soul, enter their heart? What you got any beliefs or concepts or triggers around that?
For sure. And you already said one of them.
What is it?
You're speaking to one person at a time. You're not speaking to the masses.
How do you do that though? Because I have to remind myself to do it. How do you turn that on?
We've got 3 cameras right now, right?
We'll even act it out right here. We got which one do you want?
So let's say we have one camera. Let's say we have the camera. So that would be the 2-shot, if you will.
Okay. Yep.
So let's say we're on a broadcast.
Okay.
So I'm going, hi again, everybody. Welcome once again to Bellator MMA with Michael Bernoff and my partner. And I'm going to look at you. And I'm going to look at them. And I'm going to look at you. That is a person. That's not a camera. That is a singular person that I'm talking to. 1,000,000 times over, perhaps. But each time I look there, each time I talk to you, that's a singular person. So if the 3 of us were having a conversation, I wouldn't just talk to that guy. I wouldn't leave you out, nor would I just talk to you and leave them out. So first of all, you've got to recognize, and the most important point that I'm making here, Michael, is that right there is a singular person. And so if it's just you, you're talking to a singular person, one by one by one by one. And the biggest thing is that Billy Clement taught me years ago, and I've just been blessed to have that kind of personality, energy and enthusiasm. People don't hang on your every word. Now, in your seminars, they do so a lot. They do, though. They do so because they've made a conscious effort to be here. They want to learn. They've paid to be here. You have a message to make them better and more successful. I'm in the entertainment business. Sports is the toy department of life. I'm giving everybody a break. They're watching a fight, a hockey game, a football game, a basketball game. They're watching Michael Jeffrey Jordan, win it at the buzzer again. I'm the release from the real world. So energy and enthusiasm is really what's most important. Why is he so hyped up? This must be really great. Comes across the red line of they don't hang on my every word. Unless it becomes social media and then they
look for the one word they leave our time
because unfortunately that's the culture in which we live in. Yeah. But that's what I would tell everybody. Be real, talk to one person at a time, and believe in your message and bring it with energy and enthusiasm.
Same thing your coach told you at 5 years old.
There's no question about it. And when you stop doing those things and you stop preparing, that's when I'm going to stop talking to you and I'm going to stop believing in you. And that's the worst. That's the worst. When your boss doesn't get in your face every day, you're probably like, but when a week goes by, or another week goes by, or another week goes by, and they haven't really communicated with you, you should all of a sudden get a little antsy and go,
I got a little too much freedom here.
Yeah, what's going on here? How come he's kind of letting me do what I'm doing? It's not always good. Once in a while it is, but it's not always good. Not always good at all. You want that leader in which you look up to be invested in you. But you are the one who needs to earn that investment every single day. I had a kid, Mason Parker, loved the kid to death. Passionate, great little hockey player. Played for us with the Firebirds and then the Junior Sun Devils. And he was my project one year. And I swear he must have told me under his breath to fuck off a million times. Mace, great stick handler, great scorer, but stick was always up here. Always up here. Mace, how are you going to score from here? Stick on the ice. Boom, boom. Up here, up here, up here. Every practice, every shift, every drill, every time I'm in his face. In his face. Finally, big goal in the playoffs, stick on the ice, bam, finishes. Who's the first one to hug him? Me, on the bench. Who's the first kid that I get a huge thank you letter from at the end of that season?
Just give him a hard time all the time.
There's no question. But you know what? He said, Coach, you made me a better player. And I didn't like it at the time, but now my stick's always on the ice, and look at my production. The next year it was a kid named Carson Maston, who I still lives with my son in college, who I still consider son. Go, love you, Carson, love you, Coach. And that still gives me chills, because that's what I wanted to leave, was for them to believe in themselves and be successful from here on out. Not just be successful as a 12-year-old. I mean, that's important because it builds your foundation, but that's not how you're going to raise your kids, because you're not going to have it. Not many people are going to have a kid at 12 years old. So that my point is that the kids that I was on the hardest on, that worked through it, became better people, and thus will be able to be better professionals, better parents, and overall better human beings, because they have taken the criticism and they've turned it into a positive. And it was no fun at the time. And there were times where I didn't want to get in their face anymore. But I cared about them and I loved them and I saw the potential. And so I did. There were other kids, and they'll go nameless, that I'd throw a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I'd get this, I'd get that, I'd get no reaction. They didn't want to change anything on the ice. Come sit by me, dude. It's fine. You know, we'll watch the players who want to be out there do it.
So you still to this day, you admire people that are the best at what they do.
No
That's
question.
What you want to surround yourself by.
Well, the best that they can be.
Got it.
The best that they can be. And I think when we go back to what I was saying earlier and about not pounding my chest, I just wanted to be the best that I could be. And if that became an elitist, if that became Olympic level, if that became All-American level, if that became that, whatever it was, I was going to get the most out of myself, be it as a singer, be it as a high school hockey player, a college hockey player, a broadcaster just growing up in Sarasota, Florida, you know, on the air for the first time, covering the Buccaneers, you know, going 2-14, or maybe 2-12 back in the day, because there were only 14 games. That's how old we are. But I was going to be the best that I could be. And so when I look all the way back at my coaching experience, I look at the kids like the Mason Parkers and the Carson Mastons of the world, the kids that I really made a difference in their life. And I think there's a lot of kids that I did, but these are true examples of, you are my project this season. I'm going to break you down and I'm going to rebuild you. And you are going to hate the process, but you are going to love what comes out of it. You are going to love the new hockey player that develops and achieves at a level that you never believed in, because I did the simplest thing. I get you to stop carrying your stick up here. Who scores up here? Connor McDavid once in a while, Sidney Crosby, but you score with your stick on the ice. And Mason did.
I've seen this with so many people. I grew up the same way, and I'm hard on people, and I give them a hard time, and I recognize most people still don't want to. I don't know if they don't want to be great, or they're not willing to take that coaching,
right?
As most part. So what do you feel like? We talked about this the other day at the office. What do you think stops people from being the greatest they can be? As we're winding this down, like, what do you believe stops people from playing that other level that they can play in their life? Like, what do you think gets in their way?
I would say the first thing is the inability to be open-minded enough to accept criticism.
Okay.
And it could very well be constructive criticism. Let's just say accept advice. Why does it have to be negative? You know, what if I'm not in your face, but I'm saying, you need to do this, this, and that? You would be better off if you did it this way or that way or this way. But, I know, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That is what will limit people the most. Because I'm using my voice, but they're not listening. God gave you one of these and two of these, which I learned a long time ago.
Totally
right?
True.
And I also learned as I got older that you and I, all I did was get beat on. And it wasn't until many years after I was done playing that I realized that Coach Cushnan truly loved me. Well, it was my senior year. It was 1982. My line mate Jeff Browski and I got a chance to go to the regional tryout camp for the Olympic team. We weren't going to make it, but
just even showing up.
Dude, 1980. Yeah. This is 2 years later. Like, I mean, and Colorado. Coach Cushnan, Coach, that's where we were trying to get. Yeah, Coach Cushnan rented the ice himself, got us out there to get us as prepared as we could be. We always knew he cared. And to this day, he'll always be coach. He's Crash, and his son is like my big brother. And I know that he loves me like his son. But it didn't feel like it, you know, from age 5 to age 17 or 18. Never felt like it.
But it built you.
There's no question about it. But times have changed. Now it's not you push people, you push people, you push people. You push them and you pull them. You've got to realize the personality of the person that you're trying to help better themselves. And Michael, as you know, every person's different. And now it's not as simple as this kid or this executive needs to be hugged, not shoved. It is today he needs to be hugged, tomorrow he needs to be shoved. He might need to be shoved again, and then he needs to hug again. These days. Well, that's why guys like Belichick, that's why guys like Phil Jackson are absolute geniuses. Yep. Phil Jackson is what made him a better coach than Doug Collins? Really, what made him a better coach than Doug Collins?
People skills.
Yep. That's exactly right.
His ability to
knowing how to push the buttons. Who made Shaq and Kobe get along? At least for moments at a time. Phil Jackson. Not many other people.
It's fascinating. A lot of people don't see it that way. They think it's your ability to do the sports, but it's really to understand the people.
There's no question.
That's the biggest piece of the puzzle. So what's next for you? What's the big thing? What do you got rolling next? I know you just got back from Israel and Ireland and
Italy and Israel.
That's it. Don't tell my wife you went to Italy because I'm going to be going soon.
Yeah, it's so nice. Yeah, Amalfi Coast.
Just whisper about it. Yeah.
What's next is honestly, and we've talked about it. It's what you're doing.
Yep.
It's something I've always dreamed of. And I will tell you straight out, I have not used my voice properly to achieve that.
That's the big thing we talked about, the whole idea
I haven't come out of that and done it.
I think it's interesting. I realize that most entrepreneurs, they're so close to what they're great at and they think they need to create something else, but it's really just that's all it is.
Right.
Is you have been literally using your voice and being yourself for your entire life. And the ability to help other people do that in the world, in media, if people watch this video and they're watching the podcast or listening to what we're doing here right now, and they get a chance to have any big takeaway, it's really those lessons you learned from your coach when you were a kid.
No question.
The biggest thing is like life lessons. Usually it's one nugget. It's a chance to make the difference. So you already are doing what I'm doing. You're just doing it like this. You're doing it one to many. Have you rented out an arena to speak to people? Have you sold seminars and events yet? Whether you choose to do that or not, you already are doing what I'm doing, and you're doing it on a regular basis. You're inspiring, right. You're getting people excited, but a lot of times it's just literally organizing a very, very simple process. When we talk about this concept, we talked about it, I wish I could go back in time and bring everyone there. We talked about it most people, I believe, don't use their voice, and you have an incredible voice, but they don't use their voice, not even their physical voice they have. They don't voice up for themselves. And I don't think they're in control of the one that's going on inside of their head. And like I said, you still got your coach jamming you in your brain to be your best, be your best, be your best at what you do. If you could say something to somebody, your future self or even yourself as a 5-year-old, what would you tell your 5-year-old self if you go back in time?
Ask those in power to be honest with you more often to what you are giving them and what you are not giving them, and what is expected of you, and what you can do better.
Would that have eliminated frustration?
Oh, God, yeah.
Would that have made life easier?
For sure.
So
would it have guaranteed that the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows in my life would not have occurred? Absolutely not, because that's life. That's the path. That's what makes us stronger. But I would have had the strength and courage when I felt that something was off to approach it, as opposed to work harder internally and hope that showed them that I understood non-verbally. Thus, I did not use my voice. That's what I would do.
So sharing with the world what's worked for you, sharing with the world what you already done is really all anybody has to do. A lot of times we believe we need to be greater at something. We had a meeting yesterday at the office and we said something to the effect of that people out there are always looking for they're looking for validation, and we don't want to disappoint people. So you are a master at what you do. You're a master broadcaster, you're a master with your voice, you're a master at raising these two kids to the best of your ability. Does that make sense? But would you master helping someone else raise theirs? A lot of times we get insecurity around that. So we can be so confident in one medium, but then we move over to this other thing, which is sort of like it, and we have a challenge there, and we create resistance around things that hold us back. So what are your steps to do that? You know, because I could step by step explain to you how to do it. I've been doing this 20 years.
Well,
I know how to do it.
One of them is believing that it was fate that we met. And you and I have talked about, I've been very honest about it, that I'm already looking towards you as a mentor to try to achieve these other things. I want to write a book. I can guarantee you that most of the people listening to us today have never seen this Goldie, because that's what people, they've never seen this. They've never heard this. One of the greatest compliments, going back to that Phil Baroni story with Joe, that Joe has given me over the years is people don't realize how good, how great, Joe's words. Because I'm not being boastful here. I'm saying these are the things I want to achieve. That doesn't mean that you have to think I'm great, anybody out there. But he said the thing that makes Mike Goldberg so great is that you don't realize his greatness. Because shit's happening all over the place in the truck and things are changing, things are dropping, but you don't know it. It's Tom Brady, man. You don't know the craziness. And I hate saying Tom Brady only because he went to Michigan. I'll give him his greatness.
He's great.
But he is great.
Under pressure?
There's no question. But that is what I thrive for. Don't give me a format. Don't give me a script. Change it and let's see how I handle it. And when people at home don't see the chaos, they don't understand what I'm handling behind the scenes, so thus they think they can put on a headset and do it. And that's what I want to share with people. Everything that's happened to me over time, Michael, has happened in the public eye. I don't want to defend it. I don't want to change it. Yeah, there's some things that I wish I would have handled differently. Undoubtedly, the NFL experience, I definitely should have handled differently. I'm the one who cost myself that opportunity to continue at Fox. It was my mistake. It was my anger. It was my misuse of social media. It was me, 100%.
You're defending yourself in battle.
I was, but I didn't do it in a proper way. Or I should have just let them do what they were going to do, come back and have a better game the next week. My fault. But that's what I would like to share with people, that there's a lot more to it. And there's a lot more to me. And the things that I've done to be successful that people think, oh, you throw on a headset and you do it, are the same things that make the entrepreneurs and the executives and the CEOs successful. And that's what I would like to share with them.
And that's what you need to share. And it's interesting, we talk about fate and meeting and concepts of different things. My story is similar to yours. I remember being at an event, I saw a speaker speak once, I was dead broke. And I watched him speak, and this guy made, when you're dead broke and you watch a guy make $80,000 in a matter of an hour, and you're 19 years old, you're like, that is the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life. I didn't realize he changed my life.
Right.
But I watched him do something like Jordan scored 65 points in a game. I'm like, you ever did. But you know what I'm saying? It was almost equivalent to, of course he did. Of course he did. Yeah, of course he did. And I watched him do this, and I'm like so blown away by this. I stood up and I literally pointed to my three friends there, and I said it publicly. And that's where things start to change when we do things publicly. Privately is nice, but publicly is big. I pointed at him and go, that's what I'm going to do the rest of my life. I had no idea how I was going to do it. No different than you saying, I'm going to be an announcer. And I had no idea how I was going to do it. I didn't even know what it meant. And I forgot about it by the next morning. Opportunity presented itself. I went to cancel a gym membership over in Elliott Road, over towards your house. There was a, Pure Fitness on either Elliott or Werner Road. I was living in Ahwatukee at the point at the time. And I drove to the gym, because the only way to cancel a gym membership is you had to go there, right? And the guy asked, what do you do? What do you do? And I looked him in the eyes and I said, I'm a motivational speaker. I was not a motivational speaker. I was selling direct sales stuff. And he goes, really? You think you could work with us? And I'm like, I don't know if you guys could afford me. I had no money at all, but I believed in myself. And I'm like, holy shit, what did I just say to the guy? I go, whoa, hold on. Here's what I'll do. If you cancel my membership, I'll come back and speak for free next week. If you like it, I'll speak for free. You can hire me. Went back, spoke the next week. Supposed to be 10 minutes. I spoke for 3 hours. Wow. Guy thought it was amazing. Cuts me a check, paid my rent. Do you know what I'm saying? That's how bad I was in a spot. But I realized it was the decision publicly to announce what I was going to do in front of other people that held me accountable for doing it. So even yourself announcing this, which is go out to the world, what you're going to be doing next, it's already happening.
Yeah.
It's already in the process. Now we just got to put the action to play and make it a reality. I can show you exactly step by step what to do. You have all the fundamentals, and they're a very simple set of rules. Be yourself. Choose to be the best you possible. It's not my words. It's the words you already know inside of you.
Absolutely.
And really be the you at this. Because as long as you're going to try to be someone else, you're going to lose. But you got so much great experience inside. I mean, who does not want to read a book about your life story, what you've been through, what you've done, the mentors you've had? That's the biggest thing to really just deal with yourself, is to recognize that you've already succeeded.
And I don't do it in an ego fashion. I do it to share with others, to have them enjoy it, and to have them hopefully, more so than anything, do something in life that they love. And at the end of the day, I love my children and I love what I do for a living. And that's pretty rare that people can say that. Have I had obstacles to overcome? Of course I have. But I do not dread. It's a lot of travel, but I do not dread going to the airport. I don't sit in rush hour at 7:30 in the morning going to a job in which I hate. And I have a ton of respect for people who do that. A ton of respect in a way that I could never do it, man. How do you do it?
I see people in traffic. I don't get it.
I don't get it. But I don't overlook it. I respect the guy. It's like they always used to say, treat the janitor the same way you treat the CEO.
Yep.
That's the real person, and that's who I try to be. And I would also say, when you look at public speaking, motivational speaking, my hero, Bill Clement, has been successful at it for many, many years. And I met a woman, Nadine Fisher, who you probably know the name. I met Nadine years ago. And I was on that path with Billy. And I've talked to Billy about it, but I have not used my voice properly to take the next step and do so, because I haven't known how to do it. But you know what? That's my fault. Because
what's your first talk going to be about?
It's trademark, but to utilize my voice, probably.
Yeah, but who's the trademark by?
Me.
Yeah.
Because you asked me about it. You asked me to come up with a phrase.
Your voice.
Yeah, my voice.
So you
what does your voice do? It defines you. It defines your character. It defines your storyline, and it should motivate others to do the same.
So one session where you talk for 2 seconds and you recognize that that's your answer. Just be you and be your voice.
Yeah.
So you're going to start doing talks, get out the world, get a book done, and start sharing with the world how people need to be themselves. That's going to solve. You talk about our kids, our next generation, what they need to hear. They need to have a voice.
Yeah.
They need to be themselves, to speak up and share how they feel inside, because I believe that's you. And with the school shootings and suicide and everything, everyone's bottling it up inside, man. They're scared to speak, and they're speaking as those warriors with keyboards. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Instead of actually using their physical voice to get the actual words out in front of them.
And that's where I'm so proud of my daughter, is she's really developed into that young lady. And I think living in New York City has had a big effect on her. A lot of people talk about New York City and what it brings out of people.
I think it's fantastic.
It is.
It motivates me. It's the best of the best.
You could be, again, you could have whatever job it is, but you walk out of your door in New York City and you feel an air. You feel special. You feel different than most people in the world.
If you can live in that city,
even
stay in a hotel in that city, you're doing something right. Well, my wife just got me tickets. We're going to go see the Rangers play. I don't know. We're going to see right after Christmas time. We're going to fly. And my wife we get tickets to go see the games. But the people that you meet at the Garden,
it's still amazing.
Incredible.
There's something about going
We have
into
DJ.
That.
I mean, we have like the most famous people in the world. The lady from the Cooking Network with the blonde crazy hair sitting in front of us. We had the lady, the guy from Boardwalk Empire sitting right in front of us as a seat. Stefan Matteau, which is like one of my heroes.
Yep.
Matteau. They're in the arena as well. So New York is incredible. And she's out in New York, you said?
Yeah, it's been.
How else are you gonna get famous? New York or LA? That's it.
And that's what she saw. And now I see my son, who's different than my daughter. I see him starting to come out of his shell. And it is really cool. And I have not forced it. Because you can't force it. Because when you force things, his personality is different than Kiara's. I've never had to say 2 words to Kiara. I really haven't. She's been self-motivated and self-driven like her father. With Cole, you've had to push and prod and be patient, which is difficult for me. But I've learned patience, and I've learned to understand that the way to get Cole to where I hope he will be is much different than the way that I would do it with other people. Because I can't use Kiara, my daughter, as an example, Michael, because again, she's a very rare breed in which I haven't had to do much.
You were the example, though, and this is the part that allowed yourself to be built correctly,
non-verbal.
So then you become the influence to others. So.
And when you get called out at 14, at her age of 14, when you get called out by a 14-year-old telling you you're an asshole, and she grabs your Twitter password and she deletes a bunch of idiot, idiot type tweets, a moment of just pure assholeness in which I was displaying to the world by reacting F this, F that to these people who were just trying to get that reaction. For her to already recognize that, she was already better than me. And at the end of the day, again, you talked about great leaders. The greatest leaders are the ones whose egos are in check and they're able to surround themselves with other great leaders. Why does an offensive or a defensive coordinator in the NFL of every championship team end up a head coach the next year? Because that head coach had his ego in check to put these great people in place who now have become head coaches. And they will do the same if they're smart. And if they're too singular and too much my word and only my word, ultimately they will fail. They will not have success because you need to surround yourself with other people who are great.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been a trip. I've been enjoying this, and it's crazy. I'm excited to extend the relationship and continue on. I'd love to help you out with your mission you're on. The world needs to hear it. We need to build more people that understand what you've been through, what they need to go through to get where they want to go, because the path is simple to get there. It's just you have to be willing to understand it. Right. You got to wait a shortcut for a lot of people. The experience, and by just teaching people how to be coachable like you were, and teaching people to understand that we're going to do this the hard way or the easy hard way, and the easy hard way is still the hard way, and it's going to take some time. By educating people how to do that, we got a chance to really educate the world and impact people in a major way. So final thoughts is this, big question for you is, who do you see yourself being 25 years from now, 30 years from now?
Here's my deal. Doing 225 UFCs, calling a Stanley Cup championship, being there when, Pax hit the shot in Phoenix in 93 and beat Charles and the boys. Having Michael Jordan say to me, and I quote, when I came back and he came back from baseball and I was in the locker room, I was with ESPN, he said, Goldie, what are you doing now? I said, I'm doing play-by-play for ESPN. And Michael Jordan looked at me and said, that's awesome. I always knew you were too good for that sideline shit. I was like, what? And that sideline shit isn't sideline shit.
I would keep that playing in my head over and over again.
There's no question that it was recognized by that. I want to pass down those beliefs. There's a kid named Weston DeWitt who's in the minor leagues of hockey right now and has looked to me, and I have been honest with him, went to the Cronkite School, every step along the way. And he's starting to enjoy success as a young broadcaster and get that love and passion that I had back then. And that gives me more satisfaction than everything that I've achieved. And so that's where I see myself in the next decade or 2 decades.
That's amazing.
Is having that ability to share the bigger picture. Not that it's cool to be on TV, that it's really cool to wake up in the morning and be excited about your path in life and understand that you really can do something that you love if you use your voice, you have the motivation, and you're willing to put in the time and work.
And that's the dream of every entrepreneur. That's the dream of everything we do. That's the dream of life. And you're living it. And you have the dream. You have the dream. I mean, that Michael Jordan thing,
it's crazy.
You have a crazy life. Yeah. We'll pick this up after. We'll have to do another one of these in the future. Once that book comes out, once your seminars come out, we'll definitely be promoting that and helping you out. So appreciate you, my man.
Thank you.
Coming out, this was a trip. We're still going to play a game of hockey, though.
We're going to.
You beat me last time?
I did.
What was the score?
On your own rink. I think it was 4-3. It's close.
I'm going to beat you this time. I'm going to decide in advance. You're not going to let me win? Well, maybe you will. Do you breathe in or out when you play? Think about that while you're playing.
Well, now I breathe in properly.
Yeah, because we learned how to breathe in.
Neuroforce.
Because they taught us.
Now my belly comes out when I inhale. They didn't know that until.
I was all screwed. You and I are all screwed up. I tell people all the time I've been breathing incorrectly my entire life. So anyways, close out today. Appreciate you being out for the Communicate Great show, and Mike, always a pleasure, and super excited to spend more time. Really glad to get to know each other. So the key to everything in life is get around great people. You'll find even more great people when you're around great people. Have the belief systems of a winner, and you want more training, make sure to click the link, and I'm excited to share this information with you. So thank you, appreciate it, and always remember, you get what you want through becoming a person of influence. Typically after I get excited about something, my typical response is, what's next? And I wanted to make it real easy for you to have access to some training and other materials that will help you get what it is that you want in your life. So on this page is access to a free 1-hour training, absolutely free, to pick up where we left off here, but most importantly, give you tools, strategies, and ideas on how to get more in your life, to get more of what you want. So you know what to do. Take action, click the button. I'm excited to share more with you soon.